Hello, Arkansas, and welcome to this week's edition of Arkansas Money Talk, brought to you by the team of Retire Path Wealth. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio, we have Dale Colclasure. He is the president of wealth management at Retire Path Wealth, and co-founder Mark Smalling. We've got a great show for you today. The title of today's show is The Iron Curtain Around Your Assets. If you want to make sure that everything you've worked hard throughout your life is going to be protected, not only for you, but for your loved ones, you're not going to want to miss today's show. Dale, Mark, excited to be here with you always. How are you this week?
Great day.
Doing great.
Wonderful.
Good to be with you.
Great to be with you as well. And I know you've been super busy, and it's interesting. We've talked about this subject before on the show. And again, this is another show that got a huge response from folks watching in Arkansas. So we wanted to be able to offer it again today. And I know it's not always the most fun thing to talk about, right? But it's necessary. Talk about some of the response when we've talked about estate planning in the past.
Well, I mean, we have people, we talk to people about this every day, but, we hear people when they come into our office that we're actually talking about things that maybe the advisor they have currently hasn't talked to them about or brought up. Right. And, that's oftentimes one of the reasons why they come in to see us.
Yes.
Because so many times that's the deal. It's, we live in that retirement planning world, whereas we've discussed over and over again with so many firms, that's just simply about asset allocation and money management.
And just the investment piece of it,
That's right. Since the Department of Labor, put in this best interest rule, back in 2019, made all of us fiduciaries. It's like the world shrank in the service that was being provided. And so we just have clients that come in and they say, guys, I'm struggling with finding an answer for this or struggling to find an answer for this. And so we've just kind of broadened services out over time. And this is become a major part of that.
Yes. And you mentioned the term fiduciary, which means that you all have that legal and ethical obligation to always serve your clients' best interests. And you and the entire team of Retire Path Wealth approach financial planning from a comprehensive, holistic perspective. We say this on the show a lot. How you make a decision in one area of your financial life can and will affect all the others. This is why you can't afford to look at any one piece of your financial life in isolation from each other. And this is why it is so critical to have the estate planning conversation as well. Now, it's interesting because studies show that 2 out of every 3 American adults still don't have a crucial estate planning documents in place. And if that's true either for yourself or for those that you love, you're not going to want to miss today's conversation. It's no question, guys, that in the world of financial planning, estate planning is often neglected because it can be very overwhelming. It can be very confusing. It's complicated. It's filled with lawyers. It's filled with legalese. And let's face it, we're talking about death here. And that's, I think, what a lot of folks, why they push off the conversation. It's never fun to think about once we're no longer here. But our hope is that we're going to be able to walk away from today's show with the following understanding that, one, it doesn't have to be as complicated as you might think. And secondly, and most importantly, it is by far one of the most loving things that you can ever do for yourself and for your loved ones. Because when someone is grieving, that is not the time on top of everything else that they want to have to wade through a legal nightmare and mess that's been dumped in their lap. I think often folks figure out it's time to start thinking about estate planning when they've had to walk through it because maybe an aging parent passed away, things weren't buttoned up. They've had to wade through that mess. Right. All of a sudden now the alarm's going off going, oh gosh, I don't want that for my kids. I need to make sure that my estate plan is in order. So what is the most common concern that you see folks are having when they're calling and coming in a meeting with you, specifically regarding estate planning?
Well, I mean, what we see, oftentimes you're correct, Kristen, it's usually after they've gone through it with a family member, with their parents. In fact, we had somebody in a couple of months ago who had both of her parents pass away in a short length of time, and they did have the proper planning in place. So she came in and she wanted to do it because that's what they had done, and she saw how easily things passed, and she didn't want to be a burden to her family members. She wanted to make sure that everything passed, because it is an intimidating process. It is full of legalese. It can be costly, and people have, because they don't understand the process, they tend to put it off. Right. I mean, it's one of the things that we probably see put off more than anything else when we see people in our office.
Right.
Well, and Kristen, not just put off. The other experience we've had just in the last 6 weeks is we've had 2 clients with children pass away.
Oh, wow.
And very unexpected. And
So
of
these are
course,
adult children.
Adult
that
children.
that is
passed away.
correct.
Right.
So adult children that have already begun their life and lived part of their life, these people are just now getting into the retirement world, and now they're having to go back and deal with settling an estate for their child. So you have the loss of child.
tragic, yeah.
So again, this is not just an older generation
Yes.
challenge.
Right. Yep. No, for sure. I think about, I know several people in my circle of women in their 40s who've unexpectedly become widows.
Yes, ma'am.
It's happening. And, as devastating as that is, it's even more devastating when the estate plan has not been done properly and things are not in order. So that's what we want to make sure, that you have a solid plan in place that encompasses all these things, that you make sure that your wishes are carried out once you're no longer here. And none of us are promised tomorrow. So really, this is a show for everyone, no matter your age. It's interesting. I think another misconception that's out there, I hear folks say this as well, is I don't need an estate plan because I don't have that much money.
That's right.
What do you say about that statement?
Well, let's just start and talk about what is an estate plan. And let's start with this simple basics. Everybody, needs to have beneficiaries on their accounts. We see this over and over again. It's much less prevalent now than it used to be. But if you're someone that's in your 50s or 60s, you've probably had a retirement plan that's been in place for 20 or 30 years.
So it could be a 401k, 403b, those kind of things, right?
It could be any of those old accounts, because in the olden days, let's all date ourselves here. The reality is you weren't required to put a beneficiary on those accounts. Now, most of those things are taken care of. But it's amazing that literally there's about 18% of accounts out there that don't have a beneficiary designation. So they're going to go to intestate laws of your state. And so that's really simple, is to go in and make sure I have a beneficiary on my retirement account.
Or is that a proper beneficiary? Because it could be an ex-spouse.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks, Mark.
Yes.
That's absolutely
a parent
right.
that had deceased. I mean, we see that a lot of times.
Or it's just titled correctly. We had someone that came in just within the last 6 months, and we were trying to roll over accounts, and her original had an IRA account that she'd established 40 years ago before she ever even got married, and never changed the name. So we're going through all of these steps to get these things put in place.
Right.
But the reality is, first thing is make sure we have a beneficiary on our account. So even if it's at the bank, because that's one of those things that those well-meaning tellers at the bank that are opening those accounts for you may or may not have required you to do.
Right.
The simple next step then is just having something in writing that says, this is what my wishes are.
Yep.
The state of Arkansas will honor the terminology of a holographic will, which just simply means I've written something down and gotten it notarized so that it's legal. Then the next step is to make sure somebody else knows where it's at. I mean, we hear it all the time. It says, well, I know Mom had a will, but we can't find the darn thing.
Right. Yes.
And so make sure those people that are important to you have access to it and know where it is that's there. Then the next steps can come past that. I mean, I can put together an official will. I can do a beneficial deed on property. There's lots of different steps. What we believe is the cleanest process for most people, again, most folks, we're not giving advice here today in your particular situation because we don't know what it is yet. But again, that's why we're going to offer you the chance to come in and let's figure it out. But the reality is, most people are going to benefit from having some type of a simple revocable trust in place to where I can go through a process of establishing another entity that's actually going to own the property for the passing purposes. And what we're really focused on here is real property that doesn't have a beneficiary attached to it, homes, land, things of that nature.
Yes. Well, again, so much goes into this. I want to go back to the beneficiary conversation really quickly because it's amazing how many folks maybe did beneficiary designations, but to your point, never updated them. And we know that life happens. This is also true for pensions. I've heard horror stories of ex-spouses inheriting a pension that was meant to be left in the will. It said, I want it to go to my current spouse. But guess what? Whatever's listed as the beneficiary designation will always trump whatever the will says. So it's not enough just to have a will and or a trust, which I know we'll talk more about. You have to make sure those beneficiary designations are up to date. Also, it's important to, especially because you've walked through this with people recently who've had adult children predecease them, beneficiaries should be listed as per stirpes. Now, that's a Latin term for of issue. When this happened in my own husband's family, His brother tragically passed away. He had twin boys who were 7 at the time. If it was not designated as per stirpes, that would not pass on to his children. So it needs to be very clearly laid out. And again, I've heard it said, this misconception of, oh, I don't need an estate plan. If you love people and you have stuff, you need an estate plan. It doesn't matter who you are, how old you are. So important to make sure. But, you help remove the overwhelm from all of this,
well,
right?
because so many times people say, oh, well, I'll leave it to the responsible child and let them deal with it. Well, the reality is once you've left it to someone and then they then have to distribute it after that, if that's the process, now we're in the whole gifting process that comes in after that. We're no longer in an estate
implications
issue.
too.
It's a very high possibility to that.
Right.
Just back to your point too, Kristen, as well, is not just that, but of making sure you have a plan in place that follows what your wishes are. We sometimes think we assume we know what someone wants to come. And the other is one of the biggest things I always want to point out is just because we make a decision today, as long as it's in a revocable situation, I can always make a change.
That means you can change your mind.
Because that's the biggest deterrent that we see outside of cost. Okay, let's be real, is the fact of, well, gosh, what if situations change? Well, if situations change, then I can change. But here's the reality out here today, folks. If you're sitting there today and you do not have a written plan that tells your children, it tells the probate judge what he's supposed to do with the assets that you've worked so hard to accomplish and accumulate, then give us a ring today. Let our team go to work with you through the strategic alliance we have with an estate planning attorney to help you get a plan that is comfortable for you, that has your best wishes in place so that you know the outcome you want for your assets is put in place.
Yes, and I know you will lovingly walk through this with folks because we know it can be really overwhelming, but the good news is you don't have to go it alone. The team of Retire Path Wealth is here to help and serve you. So if any of this is resonating with you, maybe you're that person who has been kicking this can down the road saying, I'll get to it someday, I'll get to it someday. Honestly, you probably are spending more time worried about it and thinking about it than if you just take the action and do it. And all the action is that you need to take is to pick up the phone and call that number that you see on the bottom of your screen, 866-724-3893. You're going to be able to schedule a time to come in and receive your complimentary written financial plan as part of that. Dale and Mark and the team of Retire Path Wealth will be able to walk through and help you get whatever estate planning documents and things you need to have done in order for yourself. We'll be back with more right after this.
I didn't start out in Medicare. Medicare is something that came along later in my career. I started with Northwestern Mutual as a college intern back in the early 90s. And I was with Northwestern Mutual as an advisor for about 12 years. And then I actually went out on my own after that. And it was actually when I joined another firm that needed somebody to get into Medicare because Medicare was going through a lot of changes. That's when I got into the Medicare business. And I became an intern at Northwestern Mutual through a college, job fair day. And that there was the advisor for Northwestern Mutual out of Little Rock. The district manager came over with his recruiting specialist, and that's how I ended up as an investment advisor at Northwestern Mutual. So that's how I got into the game. The thing that I enjoy most about my career is being able to help people on a daily basis. I mean, to literally see people come in the office that are scared and there's a lot of trepidation about what do I do and where do I go from here, and having them leave with that weight lifted off of their shoulders. Making sure that everyone that comes in to our office leaves feeling like they've received something of value from us.
Welcome back to Arkansas Money Talk. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Dale Colclaser and Mark Smalling from the team of Retire Path Wealth, and a very important conversation we are having today about protecting your assets. We're calling this the iron curtain around your assets. What we're really talking about is estate planning. And listen, as we said earlier in the show, we know it can be overwhelming. We know it's not the most fun thing to think about. And really, one, God forbid, covers the entire conversation. But the reality is none of us are getting out of this thing called life alive, right?
Right.
That's correct.
So we all need to have an estate plan in place, and we have to figure out what is going to be done with our stuff. I do, before we get back into the nitty-gritty of it, want to just highlight that you all are not estate attorneys.
Correct.
That's correct.
So explain, though, how you're able to help folks from a financial standpoint and who you partner with to help make sure all of the estate planning affairs are in order.
Well, that's a great question, Kristen. And we talk to people about estate planning every day in our office, and we're not estate planning attorneys, but we have affiliated with a local estate planning attorney that we actually refer our clients to, and we help them in gathering some of the information that they need to kind of get the process started. We kind of help get it instigated.
Yes.
And we kind of help take some of the intimidation out of the process and actually make it easier and get it done in a more timely manner, because we were finding that oftentimes when we would refer it out, it might take 6, 9, 12 months to actually get something done, and an estate plan is only good if it's actually in place when we're no longer living.
Right.
If we don't have one in place, then it's actually no good.
Right, for sure. Okay, so talk about some of the strategic partners that you work with here in Arkansas to make sure, like, are there estate attorneys that you yourselves partner with as part of Retire Path Wealth?
That's correct. Yes, yeah. So we've actually worked with a local attorney to actually package an estate planning package together, which Dale was talking about the revocable trust earlier. That's one piece of it. There's also medical directives included with the living will. There's power of attorneys, both healthcare and financial power of attorneys that are included with that. It also includes wills for the parties involved in the estate planning, as well as kind of helping them get the different properties titled in the name of the trust. We help them with that process too, to get the quit claim deeds and to get everything titled in the name of the trust. So it's trying to make the process as easy and turnkey as possible.
And I love
so Kristen,
that.
And I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go
but
for it.
Just to clarify there, kind of what we've done is we've streamlined the process into about a 5-page form.
Okay.
That takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. And I tell people all the time, when you're 75% comfortable with what you have here, that's when we need to get the attorney involved. So at that point, they're going to get us the information we have. We're going to get it over to JJ, who is the attorney that we work with. He's going to review it. They're going to then set up a phone call or a Zoom call, something of that nature, where he's going to discuss the details to make sure he understands exactly what it is they're trying to accomplish in that information. He's going to then draft those documents, get them back to us within 2 weeks.
Wow.
So literally from this time we start this process to completion, we can be done in less than a month for a very fixed price that they know exactly what they're involved in. Kind of as Mark said, we used to refer out to a number of attorneys. Literally the price by the time we quoted to them had increased from what we had been told the last time. And then the process is dragging out 6 to 12 months. And we're having a strategy session, and the reality is they hadn't even completed the steps from the last time.
Wow, yeah.
Because the process was dragging out. So what we've simply tried to do is compact something to make it efficient. Again, we're going to talk about efficiency all the time.
No, for sure. And what I was going to say is that I love that you all have created it as a one-stop shop, right? Someone can come and meet with you all. And like you said, from start to finish in a month, they could have all this buttoned up and done. That's
right.
huge.
That is huge. Well, that's one of the things that we try to do. We listen to our clients and try to add things that add value to their lives. So if you're not having conversations about your estate planning and how to get all of this done, or you're not having discussions about your financial plan and putting together a written income plan for your retirement, and you're looking for someone that can actually kind of package all of these things together, please give us a call or scan the QR code. We'd love to have you in our office.
Wonderful. Well, Mark, Dale, thank you so much. And so again, today can be the day. If you want help putting all this together, you don't have to go it alone. Simply pick up the phone and call that number on the bottom of your screen, 866-724-3893. You'll be able to schedule a time to come in, sit down with the team of Retire Path Wealth, get your complimentary written financial plan. And if you're needing all of this estate documents done and all these things buttoned up, they'll be able to walk you through that process as well. Or if you'd rather connect online, if you simply pull out your smartphone, you can open up that camera app, just point, click, and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Retire Path Wealth will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary meeting that way as well. Don't go anywhere. We've got some more important information for you regarding your estate planning right after this.
We got to know where we're headed to. So I always call it a target that we're shooting for. Critical pieces of that is, at what age do you want to start looking at retirement becoming a reality? And then simply, what do we need for income to continue to live the standard of living that we're either accustomed to or that we want to have at that point? It looks like having a written income plan in place so that you know over the next 20 to 30 to 35, however long that time frame is that you have a sense of security of knowing that you're not going to run out of money. The idea is I like to be as tax efficient as possible, but we're going to be very proactive and futuristic, proactive tax planning. And then once we put that written income plan in place and they can look down to the end and there's still positive numbers left at the end of that calculation, that's the most rewarding part of it, because you're going to retire once.
Welcome back, Arkansas. You're watching Arkansas Money Talk, and today we are talking about making sure that you are protected from an estate planning perspective. We know that estate planning is often not fun to think about. It can be really overwhelming, so that's why we wanted to dedicate today's show to walk you through what it's like to work with a team of Retire Path Wealth. And as you all said, this can be done in a month. If someone calls the show today, they get on your calendar, they come in and sit down with you, they could have all this stress and worry. It could be done and buttoned up for a very reasonable price as well. You know, it's interesting because I think some people often think, well, I don't really care because I don't really have enough, or they don't think that they have enough, or I'll just let my kids handle it. What people don't understand is that the probate process is a bear to have to go through. It's very expensive. There's lots of legal fees that your loved ones are going to incur. There's often significant time delays, which means it could be stretched out over really long. I mean, we're talking years that this could go on. But also it's a matter of public record. I think people forget that. You know, if your estate, if you just leave it and it goes to probate, any Joe Blow could go down to the courthouse, pull up a copy of your will, see what you had, who got what. I mean, it gets very, very messy very quickly. So obviously you want to help folks avoid that probate process. What else, you know, do people need to understand about the difference between, oh, well, I just have a will, but I haven't done anything else? Or maybe they don't even have a will yet. What do they need to understand about what will happen in that situation? Well,
I think what you just mentioned are the big issues. Here's the reality, folks. I don't know what probate costs, but it has a cost. Mm-hmm. One of those biggest costs is time.
Yes.
In the state of Arkansas, it's going to last at least 6 months.
Right, because they want to give time for creditors to come forward,
That's
right?
Exactly right.
That's exactly correct. You know, so if you know, and again, back to the whole point of people say, well, I don't have enough. Gosh, folks, if you have anything, a person that you care about that's going to get it, okay, that's enough right there, just to have a plan in place.
Yeah.
The other reality is that well-meaning family can oftentimes be the worst thing you ever want to associate with anything in your finances. You know, I know. So what you want to do is at least have something written down, at least have a will in place to move that next step. But if we want to kind of go through the process, I like to use the term good, better, best. You know, if you don't have a plan, the state's got one for you.
Right. It's called dying intestate.
That's exactly right.
And then the state of Arkansas is going to decide who gets what, right?
That's exactly right. Better is having a plan written down to where at least when you go to that probate judge, he has directions on what you would wanted him to do. You know, and then kind of the best option is to have something else laid out. Now, again, we're not discussing anything here about, you know, protecting assets from Medicare or Medicaid and all this kind of stuff. That's a whole nother topic outside of that. But of just basically having something in place so that the assets that you've worked for, the family that you care about, that process is going to be laid out and streamlined for them to be as efficient as possible. And basically to be able to put all those documents in one place. And kind of as I mentioned before, the reality is all of these best laid plans are great as long as somebody knows where to find them. So make sure those family members have a copy of those documents too and know where they want to do. One of the things that we offer to our clients through a new system that we're putting in place is basically a document vault, where they have the ability to store these items and then they can give their family members access to it as well.
That's huge, because I was going to say, so much is done online these days now. It's important, all the passwords that are protected. You know, if something were to happen unexpectedly, does your loved one even know how to get into some of these accounts and be able to access what they need to? So that's a wonderful service that you're providing.
Well, and we think it's important to facilitate conversations with family members. We oftentimes have multiple generations into the office to actually talk about some of these, because they're hard conversations to have. And you know, if we can actually get them talking about them
And facilitate it.
and facilitate it
Yeah.
in our office, because people don't like to talk about dying.
Right, right.
It's not their number one favorite topic to talk about.
Right.
But it's going to happen to all of us, and so we need to actually, you know, it's one thing to have the plan, but it's another thing to actually discuss and walk through the plan and let people know, you know, what you want to happen. You know, what, you know, even if it's how you're taken care of towards the end of your life. You know, people. We work with a lot of our clients are in the healthcare industry, and it's surprising to us how few of them actually have directives.
The medical directives, for example, right? Yeah, because a lot of times, and it could be if you become incapacitated, if you're in a car accident, right? You're in a coma. Maybe you're traveling overseas and can't be reached. I mean, that's not as common in today's world, but it could happen. You need to have those directives in place so that someone you trust can make those decisions for you on your behalf. And I think it's also important to point out there's no judgment here.
Nope.
I mean, everyone's wishes are different, and your job is just to say, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, have you thought about X, Y, Z? Or if that's what you want to do, then let's put this into place so it can happen.
Well, and I think the biggest part of also that comes into that is the context in which we're having this conversation today, is that so many times people are going to go and get a referral to someone else to go and have this plan drawn up who knows nothing about the rest of their financial life. All they've got is this data sheet that's been filled out. One of the things that Mark and I have tried to build here at Retire Path with, as you continue to mention, the holistic encompassing process, is that we've already been working with these folks. We understand what their objectives and their goals are. Now we have been a part of developing the plan. We're not writing the documents, okay? We're just making sure that once they have been written, not only that they get implemented and set up the way that the client wishes them to be able to transfer.
Yes.
And that process is ever evolving. And so, you know, we've known what the client's goals were. We've had conversations with them over time, so we have the ability to set them up through that process as well. And so what happens is, and we've talked about this before, is as people get into our process, they realize that we're different in a manner that they may be working with another advisor at this point, but they realize that it's not the right advisor that they have for this stage in their life.
Yes, and to make sure that all these pieces are going to work together for them.
That's right. So if you're out there today and you've been thinking, gosh, there's a whole lot of stuff that you've discussed I haven't addressed, my advisor's not currently talking to me about that today, and you would like to, again, I'll use the same terminology, button that up, give us a ring, scan the QR code, come in, give us a call, let us see what we can put together for you.
Wonderful. Dale, Mark, thank you. I'm excited for more folks to get to connect with you as a result of today's show. Let today be the day that you get these things taken care of for you. You don't have to go it alone. The team of Retire Path Wealth would love to help you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time here on Arkansas Money Talk.